Hi everyone, welcome to this Women in CX community panel debate on humanising your customer experiences. Today I'm joined by an esteemed panel of guests from some very well-known brands who I'll introduce shortly, but just to position this conversation, when it comes to your brand, authenticity and emotional engagement is key to providing experiences that deliver the kind of value that attracts customers and keeps them coming back. According to Stackler, 86% of consumers demand authenticity when it comes to deciding which brands they want to interact with. Every market sector has invested in digital transformation over the last few years with varying levels of success. And although technology has become vital in understanding customers and how they interact with brands, it doesn't necessarily equal great customer experience. These days, consumers have high expectations of what businesses can and will deliver for their money. They want to feel like you know them, provide convenience, ease of interaction, and when it matters most, to really understand their needs. Using their first name on an email just doesn't fly anymore. Consumers want to deal with brands that can deliver exceptional and unique experiences. This only comes with authentic interactions from brands willing to put people at the heart of their products and services and deliver a seamless human experience. But how exactly do we do that? Today, I'm joined by Adi Tobias from Uber, Ellie Sutton from Waitrose and Partners, and Alex Acosta from Dick's Sporting Goods. So welcome, ladies.
Hello.
How are you doing today? Are you good?
Yeah,
very good.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for joining us. So we may as well kick off just with a bit of a round of introductions to tell the audience a little bit more about who you are, what you do, and your connection to the subject that we're discussing today. So Adi, do you want to go first?
Sure, no problem. I'm Adi Tobias, and I look after customer experience, strategy and operations for Uber Sub-Saharan Africa. Why am I connected to this topic? I think working at a platform business, the human experience is really, really important, but I'm passionate about that and have been throughout the bulk of my career. I'm connected because it matters and it's important.
Oh, I love that. Amazing. Thanks, Adi. So Alex, tell us more about you.
Hi, I'm Alex Acosta. I am a CX quantitative analyst at Dick's Sporting Goods, and I handle primarily digital, e-commerce, and fulfillment customer experience. I am really connected with the subject today because we're a specialty retailer, so everything we do is about connecting with our customers, making them feel empowered to make purchases and, fulfill their dreams in the sporting goods space. So we take all of that very, very seriously and really care about the human aspect of all the experiences that we give.
Love that. Thanks, Alex. And last but not least, Ellie.
Hi, yeah, I'm Ellie, and I'm one of the senior CX managers in Waitrose and Partners, which is a UK-based supermarket. We have a sister brand, John Lewis and Partners, which is a department store, and Waitrose and John Lewis have a long history as a brand. So we've been around for over 175 years in the UK, and are kind of really founded on our kind of service and our customer principles. So from my particular role and connection to this is that I look after proposition development for the supermarkets, really looking at how we can deepen our customer relationships in their food purchasing offer.
Amazing. Thank you so much, ladies, for those intros. And Ellie, while I've got you here, I think I'll start with a question that I'm sure the audience would like clarification on. What exactly does humanizing customer experience mean? And is it just a buzzword?
Yeah, I think probably to a degree it is. It's something that I really have to I think it's one of those things that you kind of think is more complicated because you've made it into this sort of this topic and this buzzword than it really has to be, because we are all humans and we all interact with brands. So if we then sort of begin to kind of silo that into a way of kind of saying that if you're tech-based or you're platform-based, you can't be humanizing it, or that you have to bring a specific view that you wouldn't be doing otherwise if you were, say, in like my world of bricks and mortar retailing, then I think you end up probably alienating more of your customers by trying to look at that than perhaps if you're just actually looking at kind of how your customers interact with your brand in the totality, rather than just trying to humanize that experience. In that sense, I think every interaction is a human experience, whether it's with technology or with a person, or reading an editorial, or whatever it could be. It's all human because we're human. I don't know what you guys feel.
I agree.
Totally
I
agree. Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe it's just evidence of the fact that technology is taking such a lead in this space when it comes to customer experience, particularly in contact, that we're having to have that conversation about maintaining the human experience element of it, and not the experience not being just an outcome of the technology stack that's put together, and the experience not being kind of thought through and planned. I guess that would be my only addition. I guess a bit of a similar question really, Alex, to you about another buzzword, authenticity. What do you think authentic interactions actually means for a brand, and why is it so important?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think one of the biggest things for us is really engaging our customers, especially in the store space. So we've learned through CX analytics that greeting our customers is a huge deal. I mean, it makes all the difference. Just being able to say, hi, I'm here whenever you walk in the store is like step one of making them feel comfortable. But we also learned that that's not everything. So having like a Walmart greeter or something like that, that's really just standing and saying, hey, and then kind of doesn't take that further, is something that we learned that our customers don't resonate with. So it's really a pronged approach where we're trying to coach our teammates in the stores to greet athletes, but also to engage with them, talk to them, shop with them if they want to be shopped with, and just take it to that next step, which I think really speaks to the hunger for authenticity that our customers have, because it's not enough for us to just say hi whenever you walk in. We really should be talking to you a little bit more, getting to know you, making sure that you know that we're here to help if you do need something.
And what a brilliant insight as well, though, because having greeters stood at the front of a store is a hell of a lot of money when you've got a sizable estate,
Yes.
right? So,
Yes.
yeah, really being clear about what's important to customers, what's authentic from a brand perspective, and having the data and the evidence to prove that is a really powerful position to
I
be
think
in.
the other thing that I'd add, and I totally agree with kind of what Alex just said, is on the flip side of when brands are unauthentic, and that these days consumers have got such choice in whichever marketplace you're working in, whether it be sporting goods, transportation, food, retail, that when a brand begins to kind of try and put something in because it's a greeter at the front of the stores is probably a great example, but if you put the wrong person in there who actually isn't engaged in that, or ethics and sustainability, I think is another kind of it's almost a trap that brands would fall into, that if they put something in that's sort of an experience in that space but don't have the credentials to back that up, consumers will very quickly find that out these days, and your customers will have no problem with kind of with finding you out and making their views known.
Yeah,
totally. Yeah.
We had that huge one in the UK a few years back, didn't we? When supermarkets were massively talking about responsible sourcing, and then all of a sudden we had a horse meat in our lasagna scandal, and the brands that weren't part of that and had genuinely got responsible sourcing weren't named in that issue, and actually customers were voting with their feet, and people lost market share as a result of it. So moving on to the next question, kind of back to this, what's driving experience these days? Is it people and physical environments, or is it digital? And Addy, as you said, working for a purely platform-based business, how do you maintain that human touch and within that increasingly digital environment where things are predominantly data or algorithm driven and automated?
Yeah, look, I think it's probably been quite topical for the last few years is the how, right? And as Ellie mentioned, is that sometimes we overcomplicate what that means. In reality, we are humans with the ability to design for humans, and even more so, we are humans hoping to deliver value for another human. So it's really that simplistic, right? So the question is, or at least as a business, when you're asking yourself, how do we maintain that human touch? It really begins with, I guess, more marketing 101, in the sense that you understand your base, you understand what, first of all, what you've told for them to expect from you, and then deliver what you said you will, and then understanding what those critical points are. Do customers want you to talk to them regularly? Do they want you to text them? Do they want you to call them? I think you have to be intentional about understanding your customer segments. And when I say understanding, I'm not just talking about academically, and not just looking at presentations or looking at the stats on a chart, but really intrinsically understanding what that means on a practical level. So what that means. So when we say customer journey, my recommendation is always walk it yourself. Do it yourself. Understand what your experience is and whether you are proud and happy about about the end result. And so I almost would caution us to overcomplicate it. I understand that there's cost pressure. I understand that we can't have massive workforces, but in the very, very basic, simplistic way, make sure that you, as the owner of a touch point of a customer interaction, that you yourself have established whether you meet the baseline that you've set for your business. And also, is your team doing that? And continuously evaluating whether it's met the need of the business and met the need of the customer expectation.
It's awesome, super clear. And I'm loving the tangible how we actually make that happen. Thoughts, ladies?
I absolutely love that. I think something that Addie said really resonates with me a lot in the journey of our CX program at DSG right now. We're starting to start exploring what are called unarticulated needs with our customers. So what are the things that are really, really important to them that they're not able to articulate to us through a survey or a focus group, and where we're actually doing some advanced analytics to actually find out what those things are, because I think that's another way to just set yourself apart and really, really add value to where the customers don't even know that this is something that they want, and we're providing it to them before they even can kind of tell us that they're interested in that. And it's a really exciting place to be, because that's just one way where how many retailers or how many companies are really doing that and taking that step. And I think it's really important to be able to kind of anticipate the needs instead of addressing or like hindsighting things after they've already happened.
Absolutely. I think one other point that I'd forgotten to add is that, what you described is practically how you delight customers, right? But it's also really important to understand that the delivery of this output requires empathy, number one. And it also requires for you as a business, as a leader, to put value on the team and the people that you expect to deliver this output. Because the strategic idea will sorely lack that depth and authenticity if the delivering parties aren't aligned, aren't taken care of, aren't seen as human, then it all falls flat. So delighting is important, but also like basic principles of just respecting and treating people accordingly.
Yeah, and that's very human, isn't it? As a starting point. So, Alex, I heard you mention at the start, or in fact a couple of times now, you're not talking about customers where you're talking about athletes. So yes. I thought I could point the next question to you, which is about what part company purpose, values, and culture play in customer experience and customer experience design. Tell us a bit more about this athlete thing.
Yeah, sure. So obviously, as a specialty retailer, sporting goods store, we kind of thought about this humanized approach to how we refer to our customers, who we call athletes, and also our employees, who we call teammates. So it's really like we're all in this together, that sense of camaraderie, and also the athlete is who we're servicing. And our common purpose is extremely important to us. You know, it's wrapped into everything we do. And we really want to kind of convey that through the service that we provide, not only in the stores, but also in e-commerce, which is a little bit harder to do, obviously, because if you're an online retailer, it tends to be a very transactional experience. So how do we elevate that and create this confidence and empowerment for our athletes to, you know, go forth and try a new sport, or, you know, it's really about these memories that we make with them as well, where, you know, when you're a kid and you're just starting baseball, you go to Dick's Sporting Goods with your dad, and that's the first place that you buy your glove, and it's like a memory, and we kind of want to keep that alive, and have that knowledge and that I guess that thought inside of our athlete's head of like, we're there for you at these very critical stages of your life, and how do we translate that in the experiences that we give you. So a couple of tangible ways, I would say one is we have a pretty robust close the loop process for all of our feedback that comes in through surveys. So we're actually reaching out to athletes who give us feedback on our surveys proactively and saying, hey, you know, if it's a good survey and they said everything was great, you know, I'm rating you a 5 on OSAT, and all the teammates were amazing, we're reaching out to them and saying, we really appreciate you giving us this feedback, and we really appreciate your business, and we really hope to see you again soon, just to make sure that they know that we're reading their feedback that's coming through. And also for those not so positive experiences, we're reaching out and saying, how can we improve next time? We're really sorry that we dropped the ball on this. You know, here's like an explanation, here's an offer of like, if you come back, how we can service you better. So it really is just making sure that all the feedback that we get isn't just thrown out into a void, or our athletes don't think that we're reading this stuff and taking it and making actions on it. And that's a really, you know, huge way that we're kind of inspiring this confidence in our brand, because we're letting our customers know that we are reading it and we do care about you, and we want you to know that.
That's a brilliant example. And just that connection between kind of the emotion and the brand, and then to experience that you mentioned earlier, that the kid going to buy his first glove with his dad in the store, and how you're translating that into experiences, I think is super powerful. And Ellie, I guess to come to you next, Waitrose don't call their employees staff either, do they? How does this work in employee experience land?
Yes, there were so many of your examples there, Alex, that really resonated with the Waitrose brand. And so Waitrose is a co-owned business. So that means that everybody, we don't have any shareholders, we're not listed on the stock market, and all of our employees are called partners. Which again, I think just there's obviously a huge, I kind of said right at the beginning of the call, there's a huge history behind the brand, but I think everybody that works there kind of comes with that understanding of the expectation that's placed on them of being a part of the totality. Whether or not you're a partner that works 12 hours after college, 16 on a checkout, or whether you're the CEO, we all get the same share in terms of our bonus that year. So there's no kind of differentiation. But I think with that, the employee experience, because we have such high kind of expectations from our customers, or our expectations from them to us, if that makes sense, is that we have to make sure that the employee sort of experience is right to get people to feel like they are able to sort of bring that to life when they're in the shop. So I think there's the employee experience to be actually able to deliver the right customer experience kind of go hand in hand. And I think over the next few years, I would see, I would make a prediction that kind of CX and EX begin to sort of merge slightly in terms of the fact that you have to have a really clear strategy to deliver both. I don't know what Addy, your views on it are.
Yeah, I really value, or at least, I love that you guys also, it feels very communal. It feels really like there's a sense of togetherness, which is really cool. So for us, what employee experience, or an element thereof, is that we as employees get to use the service almost daily. We are given an allowance. And so in order to use the allowance, you have to use the platform. And in that way, we're able to very or organically note pain points that are present for us, pain points that we think could arise in the future, frustrations potentially, or opportunities to make things better, for various segments. And so the employee experience extends beyond just how you treat your employees, but also having that extra muscle in walking through some of the intended journeys that you would have orchestrated. And so for us, it's practical, it's real time, and we have the ability to provide feedback in the app directly to developers. So it really is an opportunity for us to be part of the improvement of a service or of a particular product.
Brilliant. So speaking of like practicality, then I think our audience would really love to hear a little bit more about specific examples of strategies you've implemented to deliver business, customer, and all-round value when it comes to customer experience. So I'm going to ask Alex, kind of from a data point of view, what kinds of things have you been getting up to over at DSG?
Yeah, so there is no shortage of analytics being done to kind of drive this. We are thinking about how we're segmenting and categorizing our athletes to better provide them experiences based on the way that they like to shop and what they expect from us. That includes, service within the stores, but also personalization on our website. So ingesting some athlete data into our website capabilities to be able to show specialized content and really tailor the experience to who you are, not just from a behavioral perspective of I shop every 6 months and I buy golf balls every 6 months and that's kind of it, but what is the psychographic side of that? So how are we trying to get into a little bit deeper of analytics to understand exactly how we cater to your segment, and then also really just executing the basics. What are some things that we're maybe missing out on in terms of our e-commerce experience or our store service that are things that we could address, very quickly and add that surprise and delight of just, at least we're doing exactly what they're expecting from us, and then taking that a step further with our closed loop processes, the personalization, things that we're trying out in the knowledge space. So making our employees super knowledgeable about different areas of product that we can tell that our athletes that shop in those areas really are like looking for somebody who is extremely educated and can kind of point them in the right direction of not only what to buy, but also just, trust, and you're going to, recommend a product to me that is the best for me. So what I like, what I'm looking for. How are we taking things a step further? And all of that comes from the analytics that my team is doing. And it's really, really exciting to see kind of how it's evolving into, less of an OSAT metric or a friendliness metric or something that our athletes are actually telling us, but digging into that a little bit more and saying, okay, what else are they telling us that we're maybe missing out on?
Brilliant. And Eddie, from a customer experience design, proposition, innovation, improvement kind of point of view, how about for you guys? What ways are you ensuring business and human value are simultaneously delivered?
Yeah, so I mean, I can speak for the current piece of work that I'm looking at, which is looking at our food service operations. So we have a real challenge and opportunity that the majority of our competitors within the UK have whipped these out, but primarily because of the commercial kind of data and kind of return on investment in these spaces, because they are such labor heavy operations. However, we really know as our brand that this is kind of our platform and our showcase that we should really be able to leverage. So I've got a real task on my hands at the moment in terms of how do we bring the quality of product, the service, product expertise and knowledge around that we can offer from a human perspective. When do we bring in? When's the right time? And Addy mentioned earlier about understanding when customers want certain kind of types of interaction. So when's the right time to just try and solve their problem as quickly as possible? When do they want to kind of peruse and to be given more choices? And when do they want to be able to have a 15-minute conversation about a party that they're planning, and how can we tap into that, all of those kind of areas from a proposition design perspective. So it's a really complicated web of really understanding your customer, but ultimately keeping it as simple as you can from a design perspective to allow customers to interact how they want to in that space. So fingers crossed we get the proposition design right, and we manage to kind of keep these as really special parts of our kind of bricks and mortar retail experience.
Nice. And Addy, from a kind of digital products and platform point of view, same question. How do you get the balance right between human and business value?
It's a constant focus for us. I think some of the strategies that we have implemented, and the business that I work in, we evolve. And I'm not kidding, almost weekly in our approach, and primarily because we are super data led. So if anything changes on the set of metrics that we look at, or the baseline that we're accustomed to, if there are any shifts week on week, we have very set forums where we would address what those changes are. And an example of that is really, and I'll probably kind of just throw back to where we were all suffering during lockdown. And we realized that lots of people were unable to connect with loved ones, unable to go to the shops, so unable to do day-to-day things. And so what we had at that time piloted was a product called Connect, and that's very unique, I think, to our region. Just because of the infrastructure that we have. And when we rolled it out, it was primarily to say, hey, do you want to deliver things to your loved ones? Here you go. Here's a vehicle or a conduit for you to do so without having to come in close contact with them. So you put your parcel, your love package on a motorcycle or a car, and you say, hey, please drop it off at my loved one, and you can write a little note. And so your loved one also gets the note with the delivery. And so it was really, it was human, right? All of us were feeling really stretched, uncertain about what comes next. And we had a real opportunity to make a difference. And I think at the time we were like, it's so simple, but we know that it's going to bring value. And how we've now evolved is, was it only a pandemic product, or are there legs? Do we now leverage it? So how do we then use this product to help drivers earn more, to make things a little more efficient for small businesses potentially? So really making sure that step by step we're checking, hey, does this still work? Is this still what we want it to be? Is it as efficient, as cost effective? And then how do we now diversify and make sure that, if, and I make an example always of medication. So whenever you're ill now, lots of people are super or hyper anxious about potentially leaving the house. Very quickly, you can get, kind of like flu meds or whatever you need via the app, and it gets delivered to your house, so you don't have to see or touch anyone. But in that way, so rolling out kind of what we call pharma or grocery. So really just using that as the platform, and then looking for opportunities to diversify and still serve people whilst making sure that we're meeting business needs.
Nice. And a great example though, because that was built from a perspective of serving human needs, right? A technology product that was
Indeed.
seeking to enable people to deliver stuff to their loved ones. That's like human-centric design from the outset, isn't it? And
Absolutely.
even though we're not in that situation anymore, using that human need to give stuff to one another being the driving force behind figuring out what that proposition could be, which is superhuman indeed. So we're almost out of time, ladies, so I'm going to ask you kind of one last killer question, which is, do brands really need to humanize every touch point? And is it even realistic? And Addy, while you're here, I know that you've got a view on this from the realism point of view.
So my simple, quick answer is no. They do not need to do that at every single touch point. Again, going back to understanding the needs of your customers, understanding what channels or opportunities you have to execute to meet those needs is the critical thing. So do your customers want a simple step 1 to 5 linear experience with you? Do they just, is the output the good? Or do they want you to tell them how valuable they are? Do they want you to say happy birthday? Do they want you to give them discounts? You know, not all customers want a loyalty program. Not all customers care about points. And so you really need to think about what is the most cost efficient, what channels do I have available to me, and how do I make sure that the tonality of every single communication, even outside of just the point of sale engagement, how do I make sure that the tone is appropriate for the customer base that I'm trying to meet the need of? So short answer, no. Does it need serious consideration at every single touch point? Absolutely.
Love that. So well put. And Alex, any further views from you? Are there any kind of do's and don'ts around humanizing every single touch point that you've seen?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Addie that not every single touch point needs to be humanized. I think that's a bit lofty of a goal for the business, and also just maybe a little overkill for the customer. Yeah. So I do think for a do, selfishly from the data side, is do your analytics and understand what are the most important touch points for the customer to humanize. So what are the things that are really driving into their overall satisfaction with your experience that you're either missing the mark on, or you can innovate on and really make it a more human aspect of the overall experience? I think that's a really quick way for brands to win, is just look at the analytics and trust it, and trust what your customers are saying to you are the most important things. And then once we are able to kind of execute the basics and we're really, really great at addressing these few things that are the most important, then we can move on to these more innovative pieces and really like the differentiators. But yeah, from me, I would say my most important do is use your analytics, figure out what the most important touch points are to your customer, and build the strategy from there.
Wonderful. And can we finish off with a do not from Ellie? Is there anything that's standing out for you on the do not space?
I think do not fall into the rabbit hole of thinking that there has to be this kind of tech versus human divide. And I think everything that Addy and Alex have said already, of kind of identifying those customer needs, then using the data to back it up, then design your propositions around those two things, and make sure that you kind of don't start throwing in all of these kind of additional things. But what if this segment of customers just wanted it to be slightly different? Or keep it simple, react to the data and the insight that you've got in front of you, design something for the majority, and you will win your customers' hearts and their brand loyalty to you.
Yeah, and as we've said kind of throughout this conversation, keeping an eye on human-centric approaches that are commercially viable, you've got a winning proposition then, haven't you? So we've proved here today, your brand's approving it each and every day, you as CX leaders are proving it too, that duality is possible. We can have great customer experience that's commercially driven and ultimately delivers value to the employee, the customer, and the business overall. So thank you so much for joining me today, ladies.
Thank you for having us.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
thank you, Claire.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
And yeah, audience, hope you enjoyed that too. Have a great rest of your day. Bye for now.
Bye.